All right, we'll get back to more of your phone calls, but let's do a guest segment right now with a group that we highly respect, National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation. Patrick Semmens is with us, and he is the vice president of that fine organization. And Patrick, how are you? Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Great to be on with you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation, please.
Yeah, so the right to work principle is very simple, very basic. Louisiana has a right to work law. It's the idea that union affiliation, membership, dues payment should be voluntary. So people can do it if they want, and they can't be forced to. And the Legal Defense Foundation defends the rights of employees when they face union abuse, usually related to being forced to be part of a union they don't be, or being forced to dues to a union they don't want to be supporting. So that type of thing. So we provide free legal assistance to employees who are having their rights violated because of coercive unionism. So we have 200 or so cases every year. We've got 18 attorneys, and they work on this full time. And all the legal representation is provided free of charge to the workers who we assist.
Well, that's great. And certainly, I think people should be able to join a union if they want, right, Patrick? But they should have the ability not to join a union if they don't want, correct?
Yeah, that's our belief. They should be like, there's so many private organizations in this country. People choose to associate with a church or a group, a club. They pay their gym membership. Those are all voluntary, and that's why they're good. And some of those may be better than others, each individual, but it should be their choice. That's what this country's about. That's what the freedom that started this whole system.
Yeah, it's called freedom, right? And that's certainly what our country is all about. Where did we get into the whole forced unionism tactics? Where did that all start, Patrick?
Yeah, so basically it comes back to really FDR. There was there's a lot of strikes and some types of things in the 20s and 30s. FDR comes in. He's got a lot of union political support. And he takes it out of the states and goes to the federal government and says, hey, we're going to have mandatory unionism now in this country. And it's the union gets into place. They suddenly become the representative, not just of those who support the union, but the representative of every single worker in a unionized workplace. And suddenly they're saying, and the contracts that we give or impose on those folks includes they have to pay us money for the representation that maybe they didn't want, maybe they didn't ask for, but they're going to get it whether they like it or not. And so that's the federal system that comes out of the National Labor Relations Act. A few years later, they passed an amendment to that called Taft-Hartley that allowed states, or really states were already doing this, but it confirmed that states can pass right to work laws to basically protect their workers against the forced dues part of this. But really, we still have this federal problem, a federal issue, where it's a one-size-fits-all union representation and applies to everyone. It's a monopoly in the workplace, and it doesn't just mean voluntary union members. It also means people who don't want the union, people who are harmed by the union. Oftentimes, it's the best-performing employees who are hurt the most. They're the ones who, if pay was based on merit, would get more. But the union says, well, no, you can pay them less because we, for example, want people just to be paid based on seniority, not on who's the most productive. So people are actually harmed by the union representation imposed on them.
So it's an attack on meritocracy. It's an attack on competence and performance in your job. So it just rewards people that have been there for a longer time, right?
Yeah, that's a regular outcome. It's stealing people's freedom of contract. I mean, generally, you can enter into an arrangement with your employer. If you don't like it, you can walk into your boss's office and say, hey, I've been doing really excellent work lately. I think I deserve a little extra. And they can make that decision. If there's a union contract in place, if you walk in and say, hey, I've been the best performing employee, I'd like a little more. They say, we can't do anything. That's up to the union contract. It's all dictated by that. And even talking to you about these things, we might be in violation of that.
Let's also talk about another fact is that a lot of the dues are then gathered by these unions, and when they express their political viewpoints, when they get involved in political campaigns, 9 times out of 10, maybe 95 out of 100, the dues go to Democrat candidates. Correct, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, it's overwhelming, and it's obviously it's a corrupting influence on our political system, and it's especially problematic because, of course, it should all be voluntary. That would solve all these issues. Is that if people want to voluntarily send a bunch of money to some radicals in one political party, that's sort of their decision. But that's not how it works. We know that a lot of the rank and file they're kind of like regular Americans. They're across the spectrum. Many support Republicans, others support Democrats. They probably don't like the most extreme folks on any particular end. But then you look at the union bosses, the ones who decide who gets the political contributions, and yes, you're right. It's 95%, 99%, depending on if you look just at PAC money or you look at all the other money they spend. But we've run studies and found that every political cycle, we're looking at $2 billion or more being spent on union political and lobbying activities, and that is overwhelmingly going to Democrats and Democrat causes.
And of course, that's a corrupt system. People shouldn't be forced to contribute dues to an organization that's going to support one party and support a philosophy that you yourself don't agree with. And if you're a rank and file member who's conservative or moderate, that's a problem because that doesn't align with your views. How many, what are we up to right now as far as right to work states, Patrick?
Yeah, so there's currently 26 right to work states. So the majority of states do have right to work. But obviously, we're trying to pass some more. But then it really does come back to this is the problem of federal law. Federal law gives unions the power to force workers to pay dues or be fired. And so the National Right to Work Foundation sister organization, the National Right to Work Committee, is working in Congress to try and push for the National Right to Work Act. There's all these bills out there, and there are thousands of pages, and lobbyists have to write them for years and all that. The National Right to Work Act fits on one page of paper. It's one sheet, and all it does is it strips the provisions of existing law. It removes them, the ones that let unions force workers to pay dues or be fired. So,
Patrick,
very simple.
Let me ask you, we have a Republican in the White House. We have a Republican Congress. Why can't we get this done? Why hasn't this been done?
Well, there's a few problems. I mean, first of all, there's a lot of union political money, and they buy just enough influence in a lot of Republicans to prevent them. So there are a significant, well, I wouldn't say significant, there's a handful, maybe a dozen or so in the House who not only will not support right to work, but they are they're backing bills that would actually expand union boss forced unionism power. And so there's Democrats are basically entirely opposed. You've got a handful of Republicans who also do this. They think that, I'm from a state where the unions are very influential and they want to suck up to the union bosses. It's a bad strategy because, of course, as soon as the unions see a Democrat who will support a Democrat Speaker of the House, they're gonna throw them to the curb. But we've seen that for a while, and unfortunately, that's the biggest holdup.
So we need
talk favorably about right to work, but yeah.
Yeah, we need more freedom-oriented Republicans in Congress, and that's the problem with so many things that get held up. I mean, it's just been so disappointing. We just got about 30 seconds left. I know that your organization is working on a lot of cases right now. How best can our listeners support the great work you're doing, Patrick?
Sure. Just come to our website, nrtw.org. You can find out about your rights if you're an employee facing these types of situations. You can find out how to support us, and you can just generally read about the Right to Work Foundation and the work we do defending workers and their freedom.
Keep up the great work. We'll do it again. Patrick, thanks so much for being with us.